Okay. All right. You should be able to hear me. You should be able to hear me, though. It is my first time. Not first time. Uh, I haven't really been vlogging. What am I talking about? Live streaming in a while. So forgive me if this comes across as a bad stream, but I do want to get my thoughts up there so that we can discuss ICE. I'm very invested in discussing this topic. Um, I think everything else happening right now is a distraction. If you're looking for, trying to discuss specific incidences and things like that, let me finish signing in. Okay. All right. So let's talk ICE here because we had another shooting in Minneapolis that took place today where a young man, I think he was 37 years old, he was killed by ICE while he was trying to defend a woman who was in an altercation with ICE. And ultimately, he was shot by officers. I think there were like around 5 or 6 men around him in this altercation. The video has come out. People have chosen their sides, their talking points, and all of this to me is a distraction from the actual conversation that needs to be had, which is, do we want ICE around or do we not want ICE around? And I feel like that's kind of the conversation that we need to be having and having honestly. But I feel like no one wants to have that honest conversation online, right? You kind of have the camps in, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is now anti-ICE because of the way that Trump is using ICE. And the Republican Party is, I'm not saying pro-ICE, they're just not anti-ICE because Trump is their quote-unquote leader. And they don't want to go against Trump or be viewed as, giving any ammo to the other side, right? But ICE has been around for, I think, since 2003. ICE has been around. I remember reading an article that said that Obama actually had more deportations than any other president. His nickname was Deporter in Chief. That's how much Obama was getting people out of the country when he was president with ICE. And we didn't know about it, right? Partially because at that time, many people weren't that bothered by what could be perceived as maybe dark sides of the Obama presidency because of the package it came in, right? Like Obama is a very, clean cut, polished man. His politics were that of liberal, right? Like, he changed his mind on gay marriage. He was somebody who, he had the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, right? Like that was Obama's legacy. And so some of this other stuff, ICE, immigration, things that people might not really be big fans of, who cares, or it wasn't being reported, right? Like most of the mainstream media is liberal, right? It leans towards the left. And when they have their person in office, there's just a certain level of you don't want to make the person, the person on your side look that bad. And so you kind of just don't talk about certain things that does not need to be discussed, right? I'm not saying that this is good. I'm not saying that well, no, it's definitely not good because if you are a media organization and you are promoting yourself as objective journalism and news, you should do your job regardless of who's in the White House. It's not your job to kind of put your thumb on the scale or to, play defense on behalf of somebody in the way that I think it is fair to accuse the mainstream media of doing for Democratic presidents and politicians, right? Having said that, so I think that was one part of this, right, where the mainstream media wasn't really reporting on the Obama deportations because that was their guy, right? Versus Trump is the opposition. Let's go ahead and highlight this stuff, right? So there's that. There's also the fact that before Obama, politics wasn't really combined with entertainment in the way that it is now. Like, everyone has an opinion on politics today, and this was not the case before Barack Obama, at least in my world. Barack Obama's second presidency was the first election that I could actually vote in. And I voted for Obama in 2012. Most of my friends were not as political as they are now. Right? Like, I think high schoolers are political now. Everything is politics, and everything might have always been politics, but we sure didn't treat everything as if it were politics, if you kind of get what I'm trying to say here. This is a very recent, like, phenomena that we're experiencing. And Trump exists now where politics intersects with entertainment. And so here we are. We kind of know everything. We're paying attention to everything. And so, the ICE videos, the ICE incidences, you just can't avoid it. It's everywhere, right? And to me, like, all of this comes down to, how do you feel about ICE? Are you anti-ICE? Are you pro-ICE? Which is really just a way to get to the larger conversation of how you feel about what should you do with illegal immigration, right? We have God knows how many million of people in this country that are not citizens, that were born in this country, but they're here now. What should you do about these individuals that exist and live in your country, but they're not citizens, right? How should you go about, what should happen? And one solution would be to make all of these individuals citizens, right? I think Ronald Reagan did something like this when he was president, where, you say, hey, you know what? You're in the country right now. We're going to make you a U.S. citizen. And then put all your efforts into putting up a strong border, right? Like, keeping illegal immigration from being a huge problem with people entering the country. And in that respect, Trump has done a pretty decent job at that, where I think, like, the entire border has pretty much been shut down. You don't have nowhere near the levels of people coming into the country like you did underneath Joe Biden, which saw the largest number of people coming into America in like quite some time. Like, there's a graph somewhere. I can't find. I should look to find it, because there is a graph somewhere that shows this. Hold on, Joe Biden, illegal immigration graph. My cat, hold on. Hey, girl. How you doing, girl? How you doing, girl? You doing good, Nala? You doing good, Nala? All right. Where's this graph? Is this the graph? I should come prepared with these things. But I do not have the information that I need. But you're going to just believe me on this one, right? There's a graph that shows a record number of illegal immigration that came into the country during the 4 years of Joe Biden, right? Haven't seen him before. So you have all these individuals that are in the country, and this is not including all the years underneath Obama, and then underneath, Daddy Bush and Baby Bush and, Clinton, right? Where you've had this level of illegal immigration coming into the country. These people are in here, though. What should you do with them, right? So you close down the border. Congratulations. of the people left, what should you do? Now, I think there are a couple of different camps that are involved in this debate. There's one camp, which are the people who did not vote for Trump in 2024, who these individuals do not want for there to be deportations of illegal immigrants that are not violent, that don't have criminal histories. They don't want ICE to go around and deport these individuals from the country, right? So that's one camp. Didn't vote for Trump, don't support ICE. There's a second camp of individuals who they did vote for Trump and they thought they were in favor of deportations, but now seeing it, right? Seeing what it looks like to actually go around, round people up that are truly illegal immigrants and, kick them out the country, it doesn't sit right in their stomach. And so now they are against ICE going around and deporting U.S. citizens, right? No, they're not U.S. citizens. Illegal immigrants who have lived in the country as citizens, quote unquote, for God knows how many years / decades, right? So there's that group. Then you have the other group, which these are people that voted for Trump. They are in favor of deportations, and they have the stomach to follow this thing through to whatever conclusion it leads to. Right? So these aren't individuals that are put off by the crying videos of children. They're not that upset at seeing husbands being taken away from their wives or vice versa, or children being left to cry as their parents get taken out. They don't care. They have a hardline stance of, if you are an illegal immigrant, you should be removed from the country. You don't belong here. All right. So those are the three groups, right? Didn't vote for Trump, anti-ICE. Voted for Trump, was pro-ICE. Actually, there's four groups. I lied. There's four groups. Didn't vote for Trump, anti-ICE. Voted for Trump, anti-ICE, because some people just voted for Trump for other reasons, like economic reasons or foreign policy, yada 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 yada. Or they're just Republican, so they felt like they had to vote for Trump, right? Voted for Trump, was pro-ICE, but kind of regret it now, seeing the videos, and voted for Trump, supported ICE, wanted ICE deportations, and have no problem with what's going on whatsoever, right? These are the different factions that are screaming at each other, having the conversation now about immigration enforcement on sites that like Reddit, X, probably in Facebook groups and, Facebook posts and everything, right? And of all of these people, of all of these groups, I think the largest number of citizens today, right, as of this exact moment, it probably falls in citizens who don't support the deportation of illegal immigrants that do not have any type of criminal history. If I had to guess, right? So these are individuals who didn't vote for Trump and they were anti-ICE. The people who voted for Trump and are anti-ICE and were always anti-ICE, and the people who voted for Trump thought they were pro-ICE but are not anti-ICE, right? You have all these three groups now working against the last group of individuals who voted for Trump, were supportive of ICE, and are still supportive of ICE because they're like, hey, man, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Yeah. So, some people are going to be citizens and they're going to be, caught up in the wrath or whatever. That's the fault of us for not cracking down sooner, but it has to happen. It's going to happen, right? If you are in that group, you are the smallest faction in the country right now. All the polling seems to be suggesting that those other three factions, people, who are against ICE deportations, is growing as we speak. With each video that comes out, with each op-ed that's written inside of some magazine or news journal, right? It grows larger and larger. It does. And so if you're in the pro-Trump, pro-ICE camp, how much do you want to go down with the ship? Right? Like, if you're somebody who, you're afraid of Democrats, you're afraid of the left, what they're going to, what they're going to do to the country, you still have midterms coming up, which I think all signs are pointing that, it's going to be a bloodbath for Republicans in the midterms. But then you also have the 2028 election. The 2028 presidential election. Do you not care about that? You have the Republican brand in general, which I think Republicans just haven't been caring about enough, right? Are you willing to damage the brand to such a degree that it makes winning in the foreseeable future that much harder? You have to think about all of these things as you continue to advocate or push for Trump to continue these ICE deportations in, let's be honest, left-wing cities. Because as someone pointed out on X, that it always slips your mind, ICE is deployed in a variety of cities around the country, but it's only in this one city here that you have I think it's 3 killings now, ICE versus the people, and these protests and all of this pushback. Is it worth it? Now, Trump, to me, doesn't seem to care. I think Trump is someone who is like an old school dude, and he cares a lot about looking strong and not being viewed as weak, as a weakling. And so, as far as he's concerned, it seems he's ready to go down with the ship. Like, I don't think he cares. He gives a fuck either way about how this goes, about polling. It's his last term anyway. And he might be somebody that feels like, look, it'll hurt now, but in the end, once things are kind of cleaned up, no one will care, right? Now, that's kind of a charitable view of Trump. What's more likely is old man, lame duck president, doesn't have shit to lose, never really was like a Republican. I mean, he put on the Republican cloak because it was an easy way for him to rise to power. But nothing about Trump's lifestyle is conservative. Nothing about Trump's policies really are traditionally Republican. Like, why are we assuming that he cares about the party, the Republican Party, now that he no longer has any type of political future because of his age and whatnot? Like, Republicans care about the party because they like the Bushes, right? Daddy Bush cared about Republicans because he knew his son had to have a political future, and that would be through the Republican pipeline. Ron DeSantis would care because he's a youngish guy in comparison to his peers, and he's going to be in the Republican public eye for the foreseeable future. An old ass man like Trump, are we sure that he cares? Because again, nothing that I see here is pointing to a man that cares. It points to a man that could care less. So, again, if you're in that last faction of Republicans who voted for Trump, were in favor of deportations, and can stomach what it takes to get to a place of, let's get them out of here, how much are you willing to give up? I personally don't think it's worth it anymore. I think Trump should take the win from shutting down the border for the most part, and then he should do what Mark Krikorian, who I had on my podcast a couple of years ago, he's the head of a conservative immigration think tank, I believe. And his solution to solving the illegal immigration problem had less to do with kind of rounding up people and deporting them, and more to do with, we are going to make the life of someone who is not a citizen as difficult as possible in America, right? Like, go through all of the government aid and welfare programs, SNAP programs, and tighten the loopholes to make it difficult for people who are non-citizens to get these benefits, right? Take away federal funding from sanctuary cities, like practical things that someone who actually is looking to actually win elections would do. Which again, Trump is not in the business of winning any elections because he's out of here. Like Mark Krikorian's plan was, I think he said like first pass E-Verify, then tighten up the check-in check-out system. He brought up that a good number of illegal immigrants don't come through the border. There are people who come here on visas and whatnot, and their visa ends and they just never leave the country because no one's looking for them, right? So if we tighten up our check-in check-out system, when they're supposed to check out, someone would actually be checking in to make sure, hey, did you check out? Right? Like, seems important. So you have that aspect of it. And again, like, why did Trump not, or Republicans not choose that path? It seemed like it would have been such an easy, like at least easier path to walk down than the deportation path that you're kind of stuck with now, where people increasingly hate it because of how it looks. It hurts them, right? Voters are extremely emotionally driven. I don't know where we got this image in our mind that voters are these logical people who, if you present, them with the facts on both sides of an argument, they're going to go with the side that, the facts outweigh, the lies of the other side. That's not how people vote. People don't vote that way. People don't think that way. People are driven by stories and emotion. That's it. Stories and emotion. That's what drives people to vote. If you can create a narrative and create a story that can galvanize people, can make people feel emotionally invested, can make people feel sick, like I'm disgusted by this, what's happening, you will have their votes. It's something that I think Trump understands better than most politicians on the left and the right, that, hey, you have to communicate with these people in a way that you make them feel where you're coming from, not think their way through problems. People don't think their way through shit. That's not why they voted for Trump. It's not why they voted for Joe Biden. It's not why they voted for President Obama. Like, people are driven by narratives. They're driven by stories. They're driven by those things. And what I would ask my Republican friends would be, how do you think you guys are making people feel due to all of these interactions with protesters, these videos and images of people being detained and crying? That's why the sentiment of the public as it relates to ICE and deportations is becoming more. It's becoming more and more negative. It's because of that. So, yeah, man.